Canada Day isn't just a date on the calendar, it's a moment to remember who we are. That single idea becomes the foundation of everything that follows. It reframes a national celebration into something much bigger than fireworks, ceremonies, or tradition. Instead of looking backward with nostalgia, it asks Canadians to look forward with purpose. And that raises an important question. If Canada is more than its past, then what exactly is it building today? And why does that answer matter more now than ever before? The speech presents Canada not as a finished nation, but as an ongoing project, a country shaped by people who repeatedly chose cooperation over division, construction over complacency, and shared ambition over individual interest. The message is clear from the beginning. Canada's greatest strength is not measured by geography or population. It is measured by conviction, by generations willing to build something larger than themselves. That is a powerful shift in perspective. Rather than celebrating what already exists, the focus moves toward the responsibility of carrying that work forward. Every generation inherits something valuable, but every generation is also expected to leave something stronger behind. That transforms Canada Day from a celebration of achievement into a reminder that the story is still being written. And if the story is unfinished, then today's decisions become just as important as yesterday's accomplishments. That idea naturally leads to another question. What kind of world is this generation being asked to build in? According to the speech, the answer begins with acknowledging reality. The world is changing. It has become more uncertain, more divided, more unpredictable. These are not presented as distant global headlines. They are described as the environment in which Canadians now have to define themselves. Every generation eventually reaches a moment when circumstances test its values. Some retreat from uncertainty, others discover their identity because of it. The speech argues that Canada has consistently belonged to the second category. Rather than portraying uncertainty as something to fear, it becomes the stage on which national character is revealed. That argument gains strength through examples that every Canadian can recognize. When danger appears, first responders move toward it instead of away from it. When the future demands new solutions, researchers and innovators begin building them. When challenges grow larger, collaboration becomes more important, not less. These examples may come from different professions and different communities, but together they reinforce one central idea. Canadians perform at their best when circumstances become most difficult. That observation changes the entire emotional direction of the speech. Instead of asking whether Canada can survive an uncertain future, it asks something far more optimistic. What if uncertainty becomes Canada's greatest opportunity? That possibility changes everything. Because if national strength is revealed under pressure, then today's instability is not simply a problem to endure. It becomes a chance to demonstrate qualities that peaceful times rarely require: courage, cooperation, resilience, innovation. None of these ideas exist in isolation. They reinforce one another, creating a vision of Canada that depends less on perfect circumstances and more on collective action. But even courage alone is not enough. The speech introduces another idea that quietly becomes one of its most important themes: connection. Connection between communities, connection between generations, connection between Canada and the wider world. At first, this might seem like a softer concept compared to resilience or courage, but the speech suggests it may actually be Canada's greatest strategic advantage. Nations often define themselves by military power, economic influence, or political authority. Here, Canada is described differently. Its strength comes from bringing people together. That becomes especially meaningful in a world increasingly characterized by polarization and fragmentation. If division has become common, then connection itself becomes an act of leadership. This broader vision extends beyond politics or economics. It reaches into culture, and that is where the speech introduces one of its most unexpected moments. Canada is joining the Eurovision Song Competition. On the surface, the announcement feels surprising, even playful. Eurovision is known around the world for bold performances, unforgettable music, and enormous international audiences. It may seem like an unusual topic within a speech focused on national identity, but the placement is deliberate. The announcement serves as more than entertainment news. It becomes a symbol. a symbol that Canada's voice belongs on the global stage. The message is simple: Canada has something worth sharing, not only through its industries, not only through its institutions, but through its culture, through creativity, through music, through ideas that connect people beyond borders. By placing this announcement alongside themes of innovation and international cooperation, the speech suggests that culture carries its own form of influence. Sometimes songs build connections that politics cannot. Sometimes shared experiences open conversations where formal diplomacy struggles. Whether viewed literally or symbolically, the Eurovision announcement reinforces the larger narrative. Canada is not retreating inward, it is reaching outward. And that raises another important question: what exactly is Canada hoping to contribute to the future? The answer arrives through another powerful example. The speech references Colonel Jeremy Hansen and the Artemis mission. The image immediately expands the conversation beyond the boundaries of Earth itself. Space exploration has always represented humanity at its most ambitious. It demands extraordinary cooperation, scientific excellence, patience, and faith in future generations. Yet the quotation highlighted in the speech is remarkably humble. True success is not about being remembered. It is about building a platform so high that the next generation can reach further than we ever could. Few ideas capture the speech's central philosophy more clearly than that. Modern society often celebrates individual achievement, personal legacy, recognition, historical importance, but this message rejects those priorities. Instead, it defines leadership as creating opportunities for others. Success becomes less about standing on the highest platform yourself. It becomes about constructing one that someone else can climb even higher. That changes the meaning of progress. Progress is no longer measured only by what today's generation accomplishes. It is measured by what tomorrow's generation becomes capable of achieving because of today's sacrifices. The symbolism is powerful. A nation builds railways. The next generation builds highways. Another builds research laboratories. Another reaches towards space. Each accomplishment becomes the foundation for something larger. No generation finishes the work. Every generation extends it. That perspective ties together every theme introduced throughout the speech: historical infrastructure, modern innovation, international cultural engagement, scientific exploration, community resilience. None of these are isolated achievements. They are connected chapters in one continuing national story. The speech repeatedly returns to one central belief: Canada is not defined by a single accomplishment. It is defined by continuous construction, not construction measured only in steel or concrete, but in relationships, institutions, ideas, opportunities, and shared purpose. That philosophy transforms ordinary citizens into active participants in the country's future. The speech deliberately shifts attention away from famous individuals and toward everyday Canadians. Young families planning their futures, students preparing for careers they cannot yet fully imagine, engineers working on projects whose benefits may not be fully realized for decades, researchers exploring discoveries whose significance is still unknown. These are not presented as separate stories. Together, they become evidence that Canada's future is already under construction. Quietly, patiently, every single day. That observation carries an important implication. The future does not arrive suddenly, it is built gradually. One decision, one innovation, one act of courage, one act of cooperation at a time. This emphasis on ordinary people strengthens the emotional impact of the speech because it reminds viewers that national identity is not created only by elected leaders or historic figures. It is created collectively by millions of individual choices. Every community contributes, every profession matters, every generation inherits responsibility, and every generation leaves behind opportunity. That message becomes especially meaningful when viewed through the lens established at the beginning. Canada Day is not simply about remembering who Canadians have been, it is about deciding who they will become. The speech therefore moves beyond celebration. It becomes an invitation to participate, to contribute, to build, to believe that individual effort matters because collective progress depends upon it. The repeated emphasis on courage, connection, and conviction reflects that larger vision. Courage allows people to confront uncertainty instead of fearing it. Connection ensures that progress benefits everyone rather than a select few. Conviction provides the determination to continue building even when results may not be immediately visible. Together, those three ideas create a blueprint for national renewal, not through dramatic promises, not through grand declarations alone, but through consistent effort sustained across generations. That may explain why the speech feels both optimistic and urgent at the same time. Optimistic because it expresses confidence in Canada's people. Urgent because opportunities are never guaranteed. Every generation eventually reaches moments that demand difficult choices. Whether those moments become turning points depends upon the willingness to act. By this stage, the opening statement carries even greater meaning. Canada Day truly is more than a date. It becomes a reminder that history is not only something people inherit, it is something they create. Every bridge built, every scientific breakthrough, every act of service, every cultural contribution, every collaboration across differences. Each becomes another sentence in Canada's unfinished story. And perhaps that is the speech's most inspiring idea. No single generation owns Canada. Every generation borrows it for a time. The responsibility is not simply to preserve what exists, it is to strengthen it, expand it, elevate it, so that those who follow inherit greater opportunities than those who came before. That is exactly what the reference to Colonel Jeremy Hansen ultimately represents. A platform built high enough for someone else to reach even farther. Whether that destination is the moon, a scientific discovery, an artistic achievement, or a stronger society, the principle remains unchanged. Real leadership creates possibilities that extend beyond one lifetime. As the speech reaches its conclusion, the message becomes deeply personal. Canada's story is far from finished. It is not waiting to be written by someone else. It is being written now, by people working in communities large and small, by those solving problems others have not yet noticed, by those choosing cooperation over division, by those building quietly without expecting recognition, by those who believe that the next generation deserves an even stronger foundation than the one they inherited. That is ultimately the vision presented here. A Canada built not on fear, but on confidence, not on isolation, but on connection, not on complacency, but on continuous progress. It is a vision that sees history as inspiration rather than limitation, one that views uncertainty not as the end of possibility, but as the beginning of new opportunity. And perhaps that explains why the energy behind this message resonates so strongly, because it does not promise an easy future. It promises a meaningful one, a future earned through courage, strengthened through unity, expanded through imagination, and passed forward with conviction. Whether discussing history, innovation, culture, or space exploration, every thread ultimately points toward the same conclusion. Canada's greatest achievement is not what it has already built. It is the enduring belief that there is always something greater still to build. If you enjoyed this deeper look at the ideas shaping Canada's future, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more in-depth political documentaries, and share your thoughts below. What gives you the most hope for Canada's future? We'd love to hear your perspective. Until next time, thanks for watching.